Welcome everybody to What Would They Wield episode something. We don't even know how many at this point.
It doesn't matter.
We don't
watch
count
them in
good.
any order. It doesn't matter.
We don't count good. There really isn't a plot line. But the series where we take a look at fictional and historical figures and argue very nerdily about what they would wield if they had to wield a melee weapon, or if they were going to choose to. Today, we are going to have hopefully a very controversial character, because he already arguably wields a melee weapon. And this is Wolverine from Marvel and the X-Men.
Yeah, so, I mean, arguably, so for some people, probably hard to visualize anything else than what he already has, because it's such an iconic character. So,
it is.
I mean, he's already got giant claws that that's all he needs, So.
And to be fair, it is. But we aren't the first people to think about him wielding a melee weapon. And here's the issue that I have with him. The melee weapon that he uses other than his claws in Marvel Comics, I don't think fits him at all. He's trained by samurai and uses a katana.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. Because they did they
they did. I forgot they brought that in the movie.
They brought in Hugh Jackman Wolverine movie. They put that.
His rival at the time is the Silver Samurai, and that's actually the woman in there is the woman that he has his son with, I believe, Dakin.
I think so.
Who is a dick most of the time. Apparently, he's gotten better though. That's beside the point. And I'm sorry. I may piss off a lot of Marvel fans. I'm a Marvel fan myself, but Wolverine using katana, I have issues with that. Katana is a very refined, deliberate, and it's a weapon that's supposed to be peak and elegance. In fact, katanas are still made in Japan today, and they're not considered weapons. They're considered art pieces, because the whole thing is a whole thing of ritual and art and history and all this stuff. I can't see the cigar smoking, beer swilling, bub calling Wolverine. Can't see. I just can't see.
Yeah, well, I guess that takes us into our first question is like the background to back that concept up. But the first question that we usually talk about is like, where do they come from?
Yes.
What is their origin story?
So question one, where do they come from?
Yeah, I'm not as much as a comic book reader as you are, so I mean, I'll default to your history, your knowledge of this. I mean, we all know about I don't know as much about base Wolverine before Weapon X.
Yeah.
So if you wanna just
okay. So Wolverine has Wolverine's history is difficult because in multiple universes that have been reset, his memories have been. It would be difficult if there was just one universe, but there's not.
Yeah.
All right. So, part of the Weapon X program is implanting false memories in him, deciding what's real and what's not. But what we do know is that he comes. I mean, the most accepted is that his true name is James Howlett, and he comes from basically a wealthy family towards the south in the U.S. originally, where he is raised as the son of the Lord of the Manor, but he's actually the bastard son of the gardener. His claws come out when he accidentally kills his biological father, who was trying to come and say, this is my boy. It's all in Wolverine Origins comics. You can read it, and his claws are bone. But,
these are bone claws.
Right, but this predates the Civil War, so he's an old feller. He basically spends his life signing up for every war he can after that.
Yeah.
Although one thing I will say is that he is not related to Sabretooth. That from Wolverine Origins movie, that's one of the things that pisses me off the most. He's not. Wolverine is James Howlett. Sabretooth is Victor Creed. They are completely different. They're not related.
But then going on to the Weapon X program, which is where the modern
Weapon X program, his main abilities that they were trying to exploit was his ability to heal, and therefore be able to take having adamantium bonded to him, which he technically did. But it also now this is where we get into some muddy waters. Not the blues player, but Great blues player. Where we get into some muddy waters because the question becomes, well, was it the trauma of going through the Weapon X program that wiped his memory? Or was he a weapon and they just kept wiping his memory like we kind of see with Bucky in the Avengers movies? We still don't know. Yeah. And anyone who does know anything is either dead or likes to mess with his head. So, I mean, there are the accepted is that they wiped his brain. But there have been arguments in the past that it wasn't even part of the program originally. There he's bonded to an adamantium skeleton, and he becomes a weapon for them for a long time. He actually was before that, fought alongside Captain America in World War II, which, little known fact. And basically he spends a lot of time in the Weapon X program leading up to his time with where he ends up running off into Canada, where we get the idea he's Canadian. He has lost his memory. He thinks he's Canadian. And all of that, basically, in a nutshell, is how he ends up at the Xavier Institute. His first appearance in comic books is, I believe, in The Incredible Hulk number 39. That's probably one of the nerdiest sentences I've said. But he was actually supposed to be a villain for The Incredible Hulk. That's how he starts out as. And he was so popular, they had to find a way to get him into comics. And I believe he meets with Spider-Man actually after that, and Spider-Man figures out that he's a mutant and says, "Go talk to this guy at the Xavier at the Institute for Special Kids. They can probably help you out." Where he starts getting into his whole thing with Professor X. There's the best sum up I can get into.
Webhead.
Yeah.
Awesome. So from there, all that stuff kind of leads into our next question, which was we talk about their personality.
Right, because. And the reason we get into personality is because it's super important. I mean, like, your personality really does affect what weapon you're going to be suited. What weapon you're going to be suited for.
Yeah, I mean, in the past we've talked about different characters being more about like probably punishment versus go for the kill. Stuff like that affects what you. I mean, Wolverine is a go for the kill.
Wolverine is. If there's one thing everyone has agreed on who's worked with him, it's that he is an assassin. And as the famous quote goes, "I am the best at what I do, and what I do isn't very nice."
Yeah. So this is actually one of the first characters I think that we have gone after that's really gung ho about.
Oh yeah, this is what he does. Like
going for the kill, like ripping people up and trying to do as much visceral damage as possible.
When Wolverine came into the X-Men, it became an adult comic book. It did. Like, it kind of makes me laugh every time I see Wolverine in a kid's show, because it's like, he's going to clash blades with somebody, and that's all we're going to see. That's not, like...
And I mean, in my opinion, this is the epitome of little man complex.
Oh gosh, yeah. Well, that comes in late. That comes in later when we talk about their physical abilities in nature.
I mean, he's just a ball of rage. He is like, because we talk about. I don't know if this is an alternate universe, but I know this much where he is one of the horsemen. Correct of Apocalypse.
There are a few people who end up being horsemen of Apocalypse, depending on which moment Apocalypse comes in. But yes, he does,
and he's
war.
He's war, which just kind of goes into he's all about going it. He's
he even has a feral beast state in which he. Okay, so two things happen when it comes to like the type of person he is. One, there's a moment in. I can't remember what series it is, but it was in the 90s. It was one of the few good ones, and it's not and it's not the Age of Apocalypse. I mean, it's not Apocalypse, and it's not the Onslaught epic. But Wolverine actually gets the adamantium ripped out of his body by Magneto.
Ooh.
Yeah. It was a messed up moment, and which is when we actually got the reveal that his claw. Up until then, we thought that his claws were an addition.
Yeah.
That they were something given to him in the Weapon X program. It's at that moment that they established in canon that they're his, that they're not something that was put in him, that he has bone claws. But my point with this is that he actually goes into a secondary mutation because he has such a big it's such an attack on his body, where he becomes a feral version of himself, like orc jaw, wild hair. Mix Blanca, the green guy from Street Fighter,
Okay.
With Wolverine, and that's basically what he is. Like, make Blanca do cosplay as Wolverine, and that's kind of what he looks like. And it all goes into that personality of his.
Yeah. So he is the epitome of rage. He'd be wrath if he was a deadly sin.
And he's also the no bullshit guy. Just I ain't putting up. We're not playing.
Diplomacy is not necessarily the plan when
we're not playing.
So that being said, I mean, I guess we kind of let in it. What do they represent? Rage, honestly. He's
not just rage, but he also represents the buck stops here.
Yeah.
He represents comeuppance. He represents the very concept of we're not playing games. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think one of his lines that I remember from anything, we're done playing around. He just is like, that's it. Once everyone else wants to talk it out except Wolverine from the get-go is kind of like, this is going to go bad.
They spend a large time of his time in comics humanizing him. Like, he becomes friends with children and teenagers, which sounds creepy now that I say it out loud, because a lot of them are girls, but it's not like that. It's just the fact that it's someone to soften him up.
Yeah.
Jubilee, he takes under his wing a lot, and in the movies you see it as Rogue, and that's because they needed a way to humanize him.
Yeah.
And
he's an outlaw. He is a lot of what he is.
It's also just like he described himself before he met the X-Men. He was like a wounded animal wandering, like that type of feral.
It's almost instead of humanizing, almost domestication.
Domesticating
is what it really is. I mean,
no, it's true.
Really
it's true
because he was used to wandering around by himself. He's used to very much being like, he's a standoff. He's just like, you really got to try to get to know him, otherwise it's not.
Well, and he's also, I listen to no one. I mean, one of his lines in the comics is, I go where I want to go.
Yeah. So that leads into our next question. What are their physical capabilities?
Okay. So their entire physicalness. Now, we know that his powers physically is he's got heightened senses, and he's got a mutant healing factor, and he has claws.
He also has superhuman strength.
He's at least at the epitome of human strength. He's
like he might not be like the super soldier but he is.
He's stronger than the average. Yeah. He's stronger than he should be. Do you know how tall he is?
He's not tall.
No.
I don't know his exact height, but he is.
So part of the reason he's called the Wolverine is that in nature, Wolverines are known for having very large territories and fighting and killing things much bigger than them. I mean, they're related. If you guys have seen online, honey badgers, they're related to those. Yeah. They're just
go for the neck.
Yeah,
very much.
Yeah. Oh, very much so. And he's called. The reason why he's called the Wolverine is because he takes on things much bigger than him. He is canonically 5'3".
Wow.
Yes, Wolverine isn't just like you're talking about little man complex. Wolverine isn't just short. He is short for any gender and any race. He's just like, boom.
Yeah.
I love Hugh Jackman. And don't get me wrong, I love Hugh Jackman. And if you ever see this, you've done a great job. We love you. I'm willing to forgive the fact that you're about. You're almost a foot taller than you're supposed to be, but that's okay. But when Hugh Jackman was first announced, I was like, this guy's 6'2". I'm a huge nerd, and I was a teenager back then. So what do you expect? I mean, it's like he's too tall. But yeah, no, Wolverine is he makes anybody feel tall.
Yeah, and that was like one of the things I was talking about with the little man complex is I didn't know his exact height, but I know that
canonically he's 5'3".
Very much like. I mean, a lot of the images you see, especially like going back to video games, is he's always kind of hunched over, but he's not really that hunched over. They might have done that to make him look even smaller, but he is like very much.
Also, when he fights people like Sabretooth, they make Sabretooth look huge. He's tall. He's like 6'3" to 6'7", but he's not superhuman tall like he appears next to Wolverine. No, like Wolverine is. He's in the front of every X-Men photo. yes, because he's one of the favorites, but not just because he's one of the favorites.
Yeah, it's because you can see everyone else behind him. That's all. Like that is what it is.
Professor X sits in his chair and they look eye to eye.
That being said, he is muscular. Like he is a small ball of.
Oh God, he's lean as lean gets.
Yeah, he's pure muscle.
And one thing we didn't get into with his history is before which we do need for our last question. Before he entered the Weapon X program, yes, because of his healing factor, but they just didn't want to put adamantium on some random person. He went and he studied and he trained everywhere.
Yeah,
like he has spent more time training than any of us have spent breathing, type of thing. Like he trained with everyone he could think of, everyone he could find, everyone from, I believe, from Native Americans to, of course, Okinawa and mainland Japan, and everything in between. Yep. He is incredibly good at fighting. If he didn't have the healing factor and didn't have the claws, he'd still be terrifying.
Yeah,
that type of thing. I just want to put that out there because he's not just a little rage monster who can't be killed. He's incredibly good. He could be he was a wet works operator in World War II. He went in alone, took out entire places, and came out. That's why he was teamed up with Captain America and put on his team at one point.
Yeah, but that's very much like minus, if he wasn't the mutant, probably would have been a SHIELD.
Oh gosh, yeah, very likely.
Black Widow counterpart.
Yeah,
kind of escapade. Not that Black Widow doesn't already have a counterpart, but like
I know, I'm just you're very much so correct.
So now I guess with all that in mind, keeping that comes the question, what would they wield?
And for the record, we all know I'm not going to pick a katana, but I'm not saying that he's not allowed to be wrong. I mean, pick one.
I agree with that sentiment. I think that's I don't think, and this isn't saying he doesn't have his moments, but no. I don't think that Wolverine is calm enough or like disciplined enough. I don't think he's calm enough or disciplined enough to have the mind state that we typically associate with mastering that kind of weapon.
He's not a finesse guy, and that's very much so a finesse weapon, In
our opinion, that I'm sure, feel free to argue against it if you have opinions.
This is an opinion, but it's also a nerd opinion. So we're right, and you guys are right too, but we're righter.
I won't say that. But I wouldn't go that route. I wouldn't pick any finesse weapon.
No, neither would I. Okay. The thing about
anything that says I will wait for you to come to me is not
anything
not at all
that is patience and doing the same stroke over and over again. No, I mean the katana is very much so a land-based weapon as well. It is. I need this strong, deep root. The footwork is just as important. It has to be precise. It has to be. Everything is so precise and meticulous, and that's not what he is. He is use what works now. Learn like a pissed off Bruce Lee mentality. Learn everything and use what's useful to kill them efficiently in whatever given moment.
So with that being said,
sorry.
What?
No. I always go first.
No, you don't.
Oh, no, I don't.
You definitely don't.
Okay. All right. What do I think he would wield? This has actually been a really difficult one for me to answer because there are a few ways I could go with this. I do believe his weapon would be bladed in some way. Okay? I don't see him as bashing anything. However, that being said, I see him using something on the shorter end because he's on the shorter end. And it would be something more akin to what he's used to because his claws are only as long as his forearm. Mm-hmm. So I could see something along the lines of double gladiuses, but they're not. They're not him, and they're too slicey and not enough rippy for my wonderful technical terms. I see. All of that being said, Oh, this is so hard. Because like in my head, I want to make up a weapon for him.
Yeah.
I want to make up this this ridiculous bladed thing. I see him dual wielding, so one in each hand, and this is one of them would be a tomahawk or a Danish Viking axe, and the other one is the mystery because it's either another axe or perhaps a reverse blade using a wide edge dagger, something along those lines. That's what I see, and I see that because the axe is, or perhaps a gladius. But the point is something not very long, that he can get in and rend with, that he can grip onto and go through things with. But when he uses this axe, his axe has to have a spike at the end because I think he needs to stab people. But yeah, I'm seeing something along those lines, very tight, very in, and working on the hunched over type of thing. I can't think of a specific sword other than a gladius that would be short enough that would work for it. But I see that being the case, something along those lines. Maybe even the blade on his left hand, make it a karambit. Okay. Most of us who watch this type of thing know what a karambit is, but if you don't, it's a ring here into a knife that mimics, and the knife is designed. It comes from the Philippines. It has a blade that hooks this way. Here, I'll put a photo of it there. All right, it's a blade, and what this is designed for is designed to mimic an animal's claw, so that you can fight with it, and it's designed to manipulate things and eviscerate people. So that and the axe, that's what I think.
That's fair. This may be the first episode where we kind of came to similar.
We agree. We can't do that.
Agreements. This is what I finally decided on. I very much think that Wolverine epitomized the Berserker.
That's kind of where I was going with
all out. However, not anything, not the long axe or anything else that might have been associated. He's definitely not a shield guy by any means.
Not unless the shield is made of a blade of some kind.
Exactly.
I did have that thought of something like bladed around his
So I also gave him dual axes because you have the iconic story about the Berserker that holds the bridge.
Yo, God, and that's a true story.
And it is a true story. But I could easily put Wolverine in on that bridge and just be like, try it if you think you can. Well, it's just not a thing.
The reason I didn't go with two. Oh, I didn't mean to cut you off. Continue.
But definitely gave him the dual axe concept because he also with his feral concept, you see him leaping around a lot, and I just see him in this flurry of just axes slashing everything apart. Now that being said, my first idea and my backup concept for him was actually the opposite of that. Still in the same kind of vicinity historically, but I gave him like a claymore. I actually gave him a giant sword, was just something that he could use because he is
a 5 foot long sword for a 5'3" guy.
Yes, because I see him as being like, I might be small, but I can wield this giant weapon because he is strong enough.
Oh yeah, I can see the strength
to handle it and just cleaving people completely in two as much as possible. So give or take that. That was my first go, but then I was like, no. For him to do the most carnage and the most visceral stuff, go in with two axes.
My first thought was a comma. So. You know what a comma is?
Yeah.
Yeah. It for those of you who don't, it'll be in this hand, or actually Tanner, put it in your hand. Yeah, it's in Tanner's hand, and what it is it's a stick, it's a handle, and instead of an axe, it's a kind of like a scythe, a miniature scythe, and it just comes straight off. And my first thought was, it has a blade in the bottom. My first thought was one of those, but I don't know. It just didn't work. It didn't feel as. I feel like he would think it's flimsy almost,
or it's just not enough.
Yeah. I also thought of sickles themselves, like, but still, it's not something that he could. It's too ornate and not just basic enough. Because I think Wolverine would sit there and say, "Don't give me the fancy stuff. I'll just take this basic whatever because I know what it is and I can rely on it."
Yeah, but I think I definitely think like that Berserker concept. That nature going feral kind of concept.
But the reason, I meant to say the reason I went with an axe and something else is because I see, like, if you look at Wolverine in the comics and in the frames, he's like never on the ground. He's climbing on top of people, and you know what I mean. He's always jumping up, and I see that as I see these two things, and why I almost went with double axes, but I went with something else just because I thought it was more mean. Because unlike a sword, it has a beard on it, so he can use that to climb. And same thing with a reverse blade knife or a karambit, he can use that to dig and like come over somebody and come. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like
I just use his natural agility he would get past it, or his strength and his ferocity enough.
Well, I'm just thinking the same way he uses his claws to dig into somebody, to stab into someone and jump over and get this guy. Same thing with the I want a weapon that would work the same way. All right, well we agree way too much. Can you please argue? That'd be great. Tell us how we're wrong. We must have missed something.
I mean, this is the first episode where we were completely on the same page.
But the one page that we can agree on, Marvel, you're wrong. Someone write the comic book where he fixes that. I want to see him break a katana and pick up a hatchet and be like, where have you been all my life?
I don't disrespect the katana like that. Don't break the katana.
It's not disrespect. Wolverine can break katanas.
Yeah.
All right.
Either way, let us know what you think.
Please, if you had fun with this, please share it to people with people.
And we'll see you next time.
Oh, if you can leave a like and write in the comments, it really helps the algorithm. Peace.